Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Look at him
They
lying.
had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great.
She want to laugh so bad.
Terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out.
There
When
we
a
go.
policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has.
She looked baffled.
With policy that's insane. Almost policy that you say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump.
I don't know, maybe I like them. I like the muted mics so they can't speak over each other. I thought I wouldn't like it, but I really want to hear what he got to say. I really want to hear what he got to say.
In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short, and you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President.
Oh, it sounds like he changed on his position. The same thing they were going at Kamala about. Changing her position.
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before.
He's doing an excellent job.
Born, and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine.
Why you
It
ain't
also
running it
says
back with Pence?
execution after
I
birth,
don't see them
execution
asking him
over
that.
abortion
Why you
because
don't
a
run it
baby is
back with
born
Pence?
is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice
Oh,
President,
check them on the spot.
Well,
Yeah.
they're a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
Check them on the spot.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
There you go, CNN, well, ABC or
And now
whoever
in
she
over
with.
20 states, there are
MSNBC,
Trump
good
abortion
job
laws
checking his
which
ass on the
make it
spot.
criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree.
Oh, she checked them on the spot. I like that. Good.
Not be telling a woman what to do with her
Fact
body.
checks,
I
fact
have talked
checks.
with women
Ooh.
around our
I
country.
got my.
You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room.
Fact check, fact check.
Or
Ooh.
afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President.
Oh, she hit him with a good fact check too.
Again, it's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over.
But
by
it
the
doesn't
states.
matter.
Veto an national
That's the
abortion ban.
topic,
Well,
Donald.
you don't have to because again,
That's the
number one, she
topic.
said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She already become close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended
Here we
up
go,
being a
switching the
total catastrophe.
topic. Switching the
Student loans, and then
topic.
her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look,
Oh,
her boss went out and said, "We'll do it again. We'll do it a different
at least
way."
it's not the
Went out,
golf
got
course.
rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because you're running JD Vance has said that you
Can she
would
get a
vote
yes
to
or
take
no?
it to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD, and I don't mind if he has.
Oh, so your VP don't know your strategy?
But I really didn't.
Your VP don't know your policies?
We
Your
don't have to discuss it.
nothing?
Because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
Thank you.
And understand what
I'm
has been
pretty
happening under Donald Trump's
I'm pretty sure it is.
couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have to
you.
respond.
Oh, yeah, we
Another
know.
lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader.
A
In
leader?
fact, when they got a very negative decision.
You should ask him what
from the
IVF stand
Alabama
for.
courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the question?
problem.
Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question,
you
would you
could,
veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
Huh?
Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby
It takes
aside,
9
and then we
months to
determine
bake a
what we
biscuit,
want to do
Donald.
with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board.
Oh my
in this
goodness.
Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put
And
1,500
CNN
more
turned the
border
chat
agents
off.
on the border to help those folks who are working there
Oh,
right
they
now,
said no
overtime,
chat
trying to do
today.
their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you
His
know why?
buddies.
Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Exactly.
And understand, this comes at a
Do
time
you think we
where
forgot
the
you
people
had
of
4
our
years to
country
fix the border
actually need
too?
a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses
Yeah, you
the
had
problems
4
at hand.
years,
But what we have in
Donnie.
the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a
Oh.
really interesting thing to watch.
Oh.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh.
He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early.
I heard somebody say she was gonna bring that up.
And I will tell you,
She
the one thing
should
we will
bring
not
that
hear him
up.
talk
Hannibal
about
Lecter.
is you. You
He
will
ain't
not hear him talk
real.
about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of
He not
officers
finna answer.
officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies.
First, let me respond to
People
that.
start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason
Oh.
to go. And the people that do go,
She had a packed house, Donald.
And then showing them in a different
She
light.
had a packed house to
I
every
can't
rally
talk
she
about that. People
do.
don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country
She had the biggest rallies, man,
3.5
in the
years
world.
and
Not in the world,
what's
but
going on here, if you end up in World
she
War
had
III,
some of the
just to go
biggest
to another
rallies.
subject, what they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. Not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
Oh my goodness.
The cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is
like,
they like
what
I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America
they eating the
great
dogs,
again.
the
Very simple
cats,
phrase.
and everything
Make
else,
America
huh?
great again.
Oh man. Oh man. You said they eating everything, huh? Oh my goodness. And come on, CNN, why is you freezing up? Yeah, they froze. They background still moving. Yeah, I thought it was me. No, it's them. Ah, how y'all freezing? They background moving. Ah, come on, CNN. How they gonna live freeze? They messing up the flow. Come on. I'm gonna go try somebody else. And he was getting good and crazy too. He was getting good and warmed up. Bitcoin been sucking ass of late. See if the Wall Street Journal can get it right.
Let me tell you something.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for
Oh, she got him.
national security crimes,
Ah!
economic crimes, election.
I'm glad I got here.
Found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Oh, I'm glad I got there.
Where
Got him. Nah, I'm messing up my flow.